Hi, my name is Cody Walker, and I've been invited to the Full Spin Club to discuss Mirrorland by EARTHGANG. I'm very excited to be here.
Heck yeah, dude. Welcome to the club.
Thank you.
The chip on my shoulder, I got him in there. I try to be cool. Perfect day to drink tequila.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Full Spin Club. My name is David Stewart, and I am the leader of this online album listening club. And today, like Cody said, we are talking about EARTHGANG's Mirrorland. So for those of you that are new to the show, we have three main segments to the show. There is On a Pedestal, which is where Cody and I bring our three favorite things that we loved about this listening to this record. On a Spit, which is where we bring three roasts or three lowlights of what we didn't like about the record. And On a Turntable, which is where I sent some questions to Cody ahead of time to think about while he was listening to this album. There are some record scratch elements throughout the show, which are two segments that come by surprise, where they are either mini games or our mainstay segment, Hit or Full of Shit, which is where I have some takes I found on the internet and from my own brain, and we discuss whether they are good takes or bad takes. So, with all that being said, Cody, are you ready to talk EARTHGANG?
So ready.
All right, dude. Heck yes. While we're at it, before I forget, please like, comment, subscribe. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers by the end of the year. That would be really great for us. I would love to keep this going and have it be a full-time thing. So, do all the things that help the algorithm pop. Comments do a lot. Likes do a lot. So go ahead and just pop that in there. I got called ignorant this week on one of the comments on my shorts, and wouldn't you know it got me 100 extra views. So you know what? Come on, gang, call me ignorant. Do whatever. We're two white dudes talking about maybe the blackest artists I've had on the show yet, aside from Kendrick Lamar. So really, we're fraught for this kind of thing. So just send it our way. That'd be super helpful.
Sure.
But anyway, Cody, I usually ask people who come on the show to summarize their listen to the record in one word. Yeah. What word would you use to summarize your listen of Mirrorland by EARTHGANG?
My one word, and I don't know if it's an actual word, but I've heard it used, and I might be using it wrong, but I'd say it was a choice between two, because I'm a fan of the show, and I've heard people respond to this before, and I'm already taking too long to answer, but the answer that I have is going to be Hotlanta.
Hotlanta.
Because it's Atlanta, and it's also horny at times.
It can be horny at times.
It's a horny album.
It's a horny record.
There are tracks in there where it's like, this isn't going to be horny.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, there's a
horny
line or
element.
two.
Yeah. I actually have that written down as one of my things later. Yeah, I think it's one of my roasts. I was like, okay. Yeah. But I hear you. Yeah, Hotlanta. I would summarize this this album as chaos. Because there are a lot of chaotic elements to it, and I'll definitely dive in a little bit more as we talk, but I would summarize it as chaos.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah. But so for those who may not be super familiar with this album, EARTHGANG is a duo out of Atlanta, and they are under the Dreamville label. If you found this video, you probably know who they are, but hey, man, sometimes I have friends who watch, and they don't know who these people are. But they're under the Dreamville label. They are super wild, super fun, and very cathartic is a word I would use as well. But Cody came on the show and wanted to be recommended an album. So he was curious about hip hop after taking the break, and so I thought I'd show him EARTHGANG because he said he was into fun and irreverent. And I thought,
yeah, you said I think your words were would you like something that's like fun, unique, irreverent, and a little different? And I think that's my lane. And dude, yeah, it was perfect. It was perfect, and it's got me back in to hip hop and R&B in a very real way.
Yeah, dude, that's the joy of the Full Spin Club. Is so I now ask if the guest wants to be assigned an album or if they want to bring an album. And part of the fun is that that half the time when they say I want to be assigned an album, it's gives me free reign to be what will they like?
Yeah.
And when I get it right, it rules. It strokes my ego in the perfect way.
Dude, I don't think there's that's one of the best feelings ever, was when you recommend a song to someone or an album or an artist, and they text you immediately and they're like, "Oh, this is the best thing I've heard all year.
Yeah, dude,
I've been
thing
listening
bangs.
to this song on repeat." And it's "Oh yeah, I did it." And it's like you didn't write the song. You're not the musician or the artist, but yeah, you get a rush from that.
Yeah, it feels good to be like, I know you well enough to where like I see how this is gonna work.
Yes.
Yeah, that rules. It's part of the joy of doing this entire show.
Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us on this journey of listening to full albums. I'm so grateful you're here. Please like, comment, subscribe. But in a second, let's go ahead and talk about our sponsor today, Worse Help. Worse Help is a platform for struggling artists to get on and get terrible mental health advice. It is the opposite of other telehelp therapy sessions where you, the struggling artist, are going to be put in a terrible headspace because what makes great art? Being mentally ill. We're so grateful to have them as a sponsor because I know as an artist myself that when I'm in a terrible headspace, I make my best work. So please go to the link in the description, go get you some terrible mental health advice, and go start making your best work. You will get 25% off your first session, and thank you so much again for tuning in. Let's get back to the show. Cool. So our first segment is On a Pedestal. So this is where we're going to talk about our 3 things that we absolutely loved from this record.
Yeah.
So would you like to go first and bring us our first pedestal moment?
Sure. I'm going to pull some notes out, but right off the bat, you said your one word was chaos.
Yeah.
And I would add to that
Okay.
it was palatable chaos.
Oh, for sure.
Because there's albums that I've listened to where it's like, oh man, I want to get into like a groove with this.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you just can't find it.
Yeah.
You know, where this was like, there were moments of chaos, but like for the most part, like every single, like I've been listening to it with my painting crew. I paint for a living, and we just like, I just remember like there'd be like lulls where like it would be like, okay, we're vibing to this a little bit, and then all of a sudden it would just like shift. Like there's like songs within songs on this album, and yeah, I think that's one of the highlights for me. Also, like I think it is just. I guess the best word for me to use is just there's like some weird elements to this album and it's fun. It's just a fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun album. It's a really fun listen. There was never a point where I was like, I'm like this isn't interesting. Like the whole album has something. And if you like, I don't know. And then there's songs where it's like the whole thing. Like I feel like Top Down is a perfect example of one that song I've had on repeat since you recommended the album. It's great. It's probably like definitely more of like a radio friendly track, I think. But that whole song is just, you know, you wish you had a convertible.
Yeah.
And but even in that song, like there's lines in that song where he's like, I like girls with pretty feet. And then the next line he says, like, I have a yellow toe. It's like that. We didn't even know about the yellow toe. I don't know what that means. My grandfather has a yellow toe. He calls it his nicotine toe. And maybe I don't know. I don't know if that's what he means. Maybe yellow toe means something else. But I don't know. It was fun. Even like there's just like these lines in each track that always like catch me off guard. Where it's just it's a fun, exciting album. But there's also like it's a good listen.
Yeah, it's really dynamic.
Yes.
Like a lot of swings, a lot of like just sharp left turns. Like you're just you know, like just go out of nowhere, different elements. Like they were just unabashed, you know, like just going for it, just pure expression. And I have like a few notes on that later, but it's just pure expression. I think what I love, and I think what I've loved about like the music that I like is like I don't like. I guess there are certain examples of artists that I like where it's like, oh yeah, like it's okay that you're taking yourself seriously, but I don't feel like this album these guys don't take themselves super seriously. Right. They are just them. Yeah. Like they just allow themselves to be them, and they are definitely not like high strung. They are not like uber serious, wanting to be the best. They just want to be them. Yeah. They want to be them. They want to make good music. You can tell listening to it that, like, I don't know, for me, like, sometimes when I listen to something or, like, even just, like, watching a show, I'll have the thought where it's like, I bet that was really fun to make. Yeah. Like, I bet they had a really good time in the studio. Yeah, and that actually is, like, a perfect segue into my first pedestal, and that is the unabashed joy that they expressed while, like, making this record in general. You could hear it. Yes. They were having an amazing time. And like they were also like acknowledging more of like the real elements like going on in life. There are a couple of songs that have very poignant moments where I'm like, they're talking about the real. Yeah. You know, like there's like suicidal thoughts are brought up, but like it's such like
Sandra Bland, yeah.
Yeah, it's such like a minor note to the joy that they're expressing throughout this entire record that like it reminded me of how much sad music I usually listen to, where I'm like, oh my God, like it can exist and like both. Like, but
no, that's a good point, because like, I don't know, for me, like I think part of the reason, like you asked me, you know, what I wanted, if there was a genre that I really haven't listened to a lot recently, and I brought up hip hop and R&B, and after listening to this album, I think the reason it is because I think when I was listening to it, it was at a time in my life when I was walking around with blind confidence.
Right.
And I feel like this music hits so much harder. At least like a lot, rap for me always hit a lot harder when I was in that mindset.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, I'm ready to take on the world. And now that I'm living in my parents' basement and in the situation that I'm in, I just don't have that.
Man.
It doesn't give me that oomph anymore.
Well, like life comes at you fast.
Yeah.
Like I know you're in your early 30s, I'm 30, and like your 20s are like the beginning of your 20s are like that blind confidence you're talking about.
Take on the world.
And then your ass gets kicked from like 24 to 30.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, oh God, I'll never to listen to anything but like anger music.
Yeah.
And then like I like what was beautiful about the joy in this album is that it felt intentional, because like the artists are not young. So like the joy they're expressing is chosen to be expressed. It's like, because like again they have like those poignant moments at the record where like they're acknowledging the hardships, but like at the same time they're like choosing to be happy.
Yes.
Which I think is like way different than like the other rap music I would listen to back in the day, where they're like it matched the blind confidence.
Yeah.
This matches more of like the intentional choice.
I think that, that's a perfect way of putting it, man. I couldn't agree more. And I think there's also just like that element of them not taking themselves super seriously that you can feel in it. You can feel the fun in the album. And and that was more palatable for me.
Yeah. And it's interesting because like one of the notes I wrote down like while I was talking, like thinking about this pedestal, was like they referenced Atlanta, where they're from, as being like happy and black. And like, and that's why they put like, that's why the city of Atlanta has like put so many artists up in recent years, is because like Atlanta's just happy and black. And like, I was like, that kind of rocks. Like,
and I like, and you know, when you recommended this album, I wanted to like, I tried to do as much like research as possible so I didn't come in and sound like an idiot. And I'm still going to sound like an idiot. But one of the things that I found really interesting is like, I feel like Atlanta is just another, it's a totally different world than like I think I grew up in here in Cincinnati. And they talk about like specifically, I remember there was a thing where they talk about the open mic scene there.
Oh, okay.
And the open mic rap scene.
Yeah.
And also just like even their high school talent shows, where they would go to these open mics, and even their high school talent shows, and they'd ask themselves like, who isn't gonna make it from this? Like there's so much talent in this space. And I don't know, like I realized also just like diving into this and diving into like Atlanta artists and who inspired them and who inspired, you know, their music. There's a lot of my like the rap that I do listen to, like Killer Mike, Run the Jewels, T-Pain, a lot of those guys, like it's all like that's all from that area.
Yeah, really soulful southern.
Yeah, and
like, it's
also like when I think there is that much of one type of music in that, or not one type of music, but there's that many people doing that music, like it forces you to like find an avenue where it's like, oh, this is going to be different. Not only is it going to be different, but it also has to be extremely good if it's going to get noticed in this scene, because there's so much talent here.
It is highly competitive. Yeah, man. So I was just saying that the unabashed joy that they found, like it definitely comes through, and I like found that as like a wonderful thing to experience after years of listening to like pop punk. And because like don't get me wrong, I listen to hip hop, I'm pretty up on things, but like my go-tos are like the really sad, angsty, like Midwestern folk that are just like angry at their past. And this is like a little more forward facing, and it's like kind of nice because like I'm heading for a change of life myself, and I was like, you know what, you can choose to just kind of ride the wave. So I thought that was lit. Do you have a second pedestal for us?
Yeah, I sure do. So, I mean, this kind of goes with what I was saying. The song, it opens up with the La La Challenge, which is so good.
Yeah.
And it was throughout the whole album, I think if like a pedestal moment for me was there's a lot of like I've seen a couple like rap artists live and have kind of been underwhelmed. But I've watched some of the live clips of them, and also just hearing the album, all I could think about was, man, I bet this concert is the most fun.
Oh, it's got to be lit.
Yeah.
It has to be.
There's so many elements in so many of their songs where it's like, you know that this is a point where the crowd is just going to go nuts.
Yeah.
And La La Challenge is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, La La Challenge is one of those that has like one of those neck-breaking changes in it.
Yes.
Where like it kind of starts pretty mellow, and then like all of a sudden it just picks up.
And before it picks up, you have one of my favorite mid-song things that I've ever heard, which is just a woman arguing with someone at, I think, a McDonald's.
Yeah, like skits. Yeah, like she's ordering wings.
Yeah. And also just like complaining about the fries, asking for an extra side of fries because they fucked her over last time. That's incredible.
Yeah, EARTHGANG.
And then like, but it hits you because of that skit and where they place it, that right hook of like that breakdown and then the beat just going into like this tribal space. Is so fun.
Yeah. EARTHGANG in some of their older stuff that I've listened to, they are known for their skits. Like I think it must be like a carryover from like the early 2000s where I know like a lot of rappers were doing skits throughout their records. But like it seems like a Southern thing, and like a lot of people compare them to Outkast in general because it's a duo out of Atlanta. One of the comparisons I heard was Outkast with two Andres. Yeah. Outkast with two. That's good. But like, though, like that feels like a heavy influence from the Atlanta scene is like make it kind of fun. Like like Goody Mob, CeeLo would like have skits in his records, and like some of their skits are so funny. Like there was one in a old record, I think it's Division. It's like with JID. But like it's like an Uber driver, and he's like, "Come on now, get your shit. I ain't trying to be here all day." Like he's like, "I ain't getting out. Put your shit in the back." And it's just funny. He's like, "I should cancel this ride." He's like, "I do need that money though." And like it's just funny.
No, it's. Well, I was listening to one interview with him. I think it was their Breakfast Club interview, but they were talking about how they met, and it was interesting that they didn't bring up like it wasn't like a music connection that like brought them together. It was like they felt like they were the two like funniest people that they knew.
Yeah, dude.
And that was what it was kind of like a comedy element that like made them friends in the first place. Right. It was just like another goofy
as
dude.
It does with anyone.
Yeah.
Like, dude, who are your best friends? The homies you can clown with.
Yes.
Like the homies you can make jokes with. Yeah. Like that's like the through line of my like friend group. Yeah. Is that we just bust each other's balls.
Yeah.
But that is actually an interesting thing you bring up. We have triggered a record scratch moment.
Okay,
so this, I already kind of mentioned it, but they are often compared to Outkast. And so this brings up the game Cast or Gang. It is facts about either Outkast or EARTHGANG, and you're going to guess which act this fact is about.
Okay.
So both of these acts met in high school, which meant... both of these acts met in high school, but one met at the school in general, the other met at the mall. Which act met at the mall?
I think Outkast met at the mall.
Outkast did meet at the mall. Ding, ding, ding. You're 1 for 1. Hell yeah. Moving on to our second question. Both of these acts cite a lot of like the same... influences, a lot of funk, a lot of reggae, a lot of that kind of thing, like tribal sounds, etc. But which group cites Richard Pryor as an influence in their work?
Ooh. I'm gonna have to go Outkast.
EARTHGANG.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, EARTHGANG cites Richard Pryor as one of their influences on their work. And which makes sense because you did just say they met. They were the funniest people they knew. Yeah. So that would track.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And finally, third and final question. See if you can break your own tie here.
Okay.
Who of these two acts have more published work?
You went to EARTHGANG, and I feel like that's leading me to believe that the last one's going to be Outkast. But I think EARTHGANG's got a lot out there because I did the research, and they also they had the Spillage
Village.
Spillage Village. I'm gonna say EARTHGANG.
Oh, ding, ding, ding. You did it, baby.
All
You're 2 for 3. Congratulations.
Thank you
It is
so much.
EARTHGANG. When you include EPs, mixtapes, and collaborative albums with Spillage Village and Dreamville, they do have more published work than Outkast. Outkast has 6 studio records, and EARTHGANG only has 4, but when you include the collaborative efforts and whatnot, they end up with more published work.
Wow.
Which is fascinating.
And a hot track on Spider-Man 2.
Hot track on Spider-Man 2. Can't
Very
forget
good.
that.
Yeah.
Which was a great movie.
Yeah. and a
The
great
animated
song.
Spider-Man's fucking rule.
It's so good.
They're so good. But anyway, that brings us back to Pedestal. My second pedestal moment was just the chaos. Like I mentioned it in the intro, but the chaos, like the beat switches, the intriguing production, the singing and wailing, as well as rapping. It's so diverse that like you just get to see this wide spectrum of creativity.
Yes.
And I think that rules. And
Yeah.
like the uninhibited nature of sharing all of those things on their end is really inspiring. Like, because again, they are just them.
Yeah, it's kind of that thing where it's like, there's certain albums you listen to, and even for me, like certain comedians I will see, just like especially, I don't know, that just I'm trying to think of an example, like you hear something like that, and it's like, I don't have to. There isn't just this one lane.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are these different directions you can go.
Yeah.
Like there's a very large spectrum of the avenues you can take here, and they take all the ones they want to.
Yeah.
And that's fun.
Yeah, veteran comedian Phil Pointer made the point to me once where he was like, "There are a million ways to do this job."
Yeah.
And he's talking about comedy. He's like, "There's a million ways to do it, and none of them are wrong.
Yeah.
There's just yours."
Yeah.
And that's really stuck with me. And like clearly that same sentiment exists within this act because like these dudes are just like, no, we're just gonna do us.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's gonna sound good because we know what sounds good. And like they were brought up on all the stuff that sounds good, but they're like, I want to take my turn.
Yeah.
That's how it feels, is that they're not trying to steal anything. They just want their turn.
Yep. Well, I think that too, like, because they're high school friends, because they lived together for as long as they did, and just like making music together for that long, I think when you do that, I don't know, just the few experiences I've had doing that, whether it was doing sketches in Chicago with a group of people that I lived with for like 8 years, like there's a confidence there because you're pushing each other, and you're like, everybody believes in what you're doing, and it doesn't matter how absurd it is or how absurd it feels, because if everybody's on the same page and you're all kind of like working on this project or working towards something, it's like, let's just do, we're confident enough to do this. And I think that comes with that type of like a friendship and like creative environment. Yeah,
the sort of knowing someone, well enough, and like trusting each other, and like all the things that come with like long-term relationships like that is like the sort of trust you build with folks, for sure.
Definitely.
Do you have a final pedestal, or have you nailed all yours?
Final pedestal. Let me take a look here. I really liked the song "Up," which I think is the
Bang,
second.
that's my third one too. That's my third pedestal.
It's so good, and what it's the way that song starts out. So I had a roommate in college. Shout out Tyler Dolly, who used to listen to spooky, what he called spooky rap.
Okay,
during the Halloweens, all of October, and it was like a lot of like Insane Clown Posse for sure, but like, and I can't remember the other artists, but it was a lot of that. And this song starts out with a very spooky element, and I love it.
Just another day, in these filthy sweet Atlanta streets.
And then it's so good, and then it just blows up. That song is my third pedestal as well. It's like my absolute favorite off of this album. It was also my introduction to this duo. Okay.
And so like as soon as I heard it, I was like, what the hell is this? And I was locked in. I sent you the Colors video, like where they do it live for like the Colors show on YouTube. Yo, so good. And that was actually where I first saw it, period. Okay. So like I was like kind of getting into like the Colors, sort of like scene on YouTube, like back in the day. I was like this is a really intriguing show. And I saw theirs and I was like, what is this? And it was before Mirrorland came out. They like debuted the song on that show. Crazy. And I was like obsessed with it. And as soon as it finally came out as a single, I'm like, yes. I was locked in immediately. And then like I've just been an EARTHGANG fan ever since. They've been so fun.
I'm on board.
Yeah. And also I think that song is such a wonderful representation of the two of them as like creatives, because like they are, you know, both Andres, as you mentioned, but like Wow Great or Dr. Dot, like they both have two names.
Yeah.
Dr. Dot is the second one. He has the second verse in this, and it's like way more straightforward.
Yes.
Meanwhile, like Olu in the first half is like a little more tribal and like, and like it like there's like the way they play off each other is so great. That song is just like honestly close to perfect.
Yeah. No, it's so good. I listened to it probably 3 times on the way here.
Yeah.
And that was a favorite of the painting crew. And yeah, it's so good from beginning to end.
The bass hitting like boom 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 boom. Yeah, dude, it's just that song is so good.
Yeah.
That was like my first pedestal, but I went with the other ones first. I'm glid we nailed our third one together.
That kind of goes into what I was saying in terms of like there's some of these songs where it feels like there's 3 songs in one, you know, where it's like it's like almost like a, you know, there's different chapters in each song.
Yeah.
And there are some songs where it's like, I don't know, at the beginning it's like, man, this is gonna be the track that I don't like.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, this is actually my favorite one.
Yeah, this is the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, I feel like Up is a perfect example of that.
Yeah. Like you don't know what you're in for when you're in that shit.
You don't know
like,
what you're in for, I feel like, on any of these songs.
But yeah, man, so that wraps up On a Pedestal. If you haven't been convinced to listen to this album yet, you really should.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. I've sent it to multiple friends. I've added it to many of my Spotify collaborative playlists. Yeah.
Nice. So that brings us to what might be the more difficult segment of the show, On a Spit, which is where we have prepared either roast jokes or just lowest lows.
Yeah.
So do you have any of those?
I do.
All right.
I do. So here we go. Let's see. On Up, they talk about sexing in the sky. And then they say make whoopee, which is a term I've only heard on cruise ships during the Newlywed Game.
Yep.
That's
have you made whoopee?
Yeah. Where's the craziest place you've made whoopee, Edna?
Oh boy. Yeah.
On the song Bank, he says getting skull, no scoliosis.
Oh.
And
that is different.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah. I know it's getting head.
I know it's getting head.
But is it like it's just not earth shattering? Like
well,
you're not it's not spine breaking
It's
head.
not spine breaking head, or is it something where is it like the Marilyn Manson thing we always heard like in junior high where it's like yeah, I don't know.
He's like getting head, but not from me.
Not from myself.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I will say my least favorite, and it's not that I don't like it, but Proud of You. For whatever reason, when I heard it for the first time, and even on the way here, it reminds me, like, I remember, so my last relationship, sometimes, like, if there was, like, a thing to celebrate with my significant other, and I was broke, which I often was, or I had forgotten to plan something, sometimes I would write a song. and this kind of felt like that, where it was just like, because Proud of You, the chorus comes up a lot.
Yeah, you're right.
To a point where it's like, okay, you wrote this chorus. It's like, oh man, we have 20 minutes to throw this song together.
All right.
She just graduated from nursing school or college. Like I've gotta come up with something. I can't afford flowers. I've gotta write this song.
That's actually really accurate. Now that you've painted that picture for me, that is absolutely accurate, because I can now imagine like if it were a different world where EARTHGANG was white and like they're like strumming a guitar and it's like proud of you, proud of you, proud of you. Like, I'm proud of you. Like, it's like
imagine the plain white tees playing playing a song to those lyrics.
It's like that song like Marshall writes for Lily in How I Met Your Mother, where he's like croak, croak, lily pad. It's bad.
But at the same time, I love that song. And so, who has the verse on that one?
Young Thug.
Yeah, Young Thug's verse is so good.
Yeah, he's right in his pocket.
Yeah, it's so good. And the song is super catchy. It does feel like something you would like my like somebody in my family would like post a video of their children like playing in the sandbox, and they'd put that song in the background.
Yeah, you're right. It is a little weak. Like now you bring this up, it's like it's pretty like. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it's a great song.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just where my my mind went with that one.
Most easily the used on sentimental white people shit for sure.
Yes. And it probably did great with those whites.
Yeah. With those whites, did amazing.
Yeah.
My first one is is Kalani's verse in Trippin'. Reminds me of that one dude who's not getting laid and making everything hypersexual. Because like Trippin' is not overtly a sexual song, but she gets in there and makes it like the horniest thing.
Yes.
Like she comes out of left field and she's like, "We're doing it and we're oily." And I was like, "Okay." Like,
Yeah.
I'm like at the gym and I'm like, "Are we?" Like, I'm sweaty. You got that part right.
Well, that goes back to what we were saying at the beginning. Is there's definitely a horny element in a lot of these tracks, and some of them catch you off guard.
Yeah. They are, but it's like kind of like in a tongue-in-cheek way. Like it's like almost joking. Like a lot of their bars about like that are sexual are like punchlines. Meanwhile, like artists out there like Smino, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's out of St. Louis.
Okay.
Amazing. Like the album Black Swan, so good.
Okay.
But it is like the horniest thing I've ever listened to.
Yeah.
It is crazy.
Yeah.
The headline for that album is like if your dude likes Smino, he's good at giving head. like if his favorite rapper is Smino, he's amazing at it. But yeah.
That actually leads me to my next roast, which was the line. And I'm not. What song was this in? I'm not sure. I can't remember which song it was in. But the line is, "What my grandma dreamed of, what these bitches cream for."
Oh.
And that's the same line. And my question, I wanted to bring this question to you: is there something that your grandma dreamed of for you that the bitches also cream for?
The answer has to be money, right?
Yeah.
Like your grandma wants to see you wealthy, so do the hoes.
That makes sense.
That's like the
that's an obvious answer. Yeah, my mind went to a worse place.
Oh no.
Yeah. I don't know. I just
You know, my grandma's really into Riley Reid. That's crazy. That's wild. You guys have that in common.
That's so crazy.
It's like you guys should really talk about that sometime.
Yeah, and the other one that I had was I guess this probably should have been on pedestal. I just thought it was probably my favorite flex in the album, which was the line from Trippin', "Came for the swipe right, stay for the Wi-Fi."
Oh yeah.
And I just love that he's flexing like I've got the best fucking Wi-Fi in town. It's better than Starbucks. And I have been on a date and gone back to a person's house, and the Wi-Fi has been like you connect. Yeah. It's like this is some of the strongest Wi-Fi I've ever been a part of. I've ever been engaged with. And I'll stay for the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, this is better than what we were gonna do.
I just want to be connected.
Yeah. My second roast was. This is actually a self-roast, is that this album is so black that I feel like Nancy Pelosi kneeling anytime I sing along to this album. I feel like that picture of her just going like this with that scarf on.
Although I will say, like, it's definitely like a black album, but there were some Caucasian elements in there. Like, I can't remember what song it was specifically, but I think the chorus is referring to sex and let's get naked and get in a lake.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a white thing to do. Yeah, I wore my blackest shirt for this episode. Like this is my most tribal shirt. I balanced it out with the Buc-ee's hat.
Big balance.
Yeah,
big balance.
Big balancing act over here. Never let anyone say we're not intentional here at the Full Spin Club. But in my last one was this one's a little mean, but not. We'll get into it. But like, is it called Mirrorland because it makes you look in the mirror and ask yourself, am I even happy? And then I had a secondary one to that, and I was like, is it called Mirrorland because the first half is opposite to the second half?
Ah, yeah.
Because the first half is banger after banger, and then the second half is kind of sleepy in comparison.
Yep, those first 6 until you get to, I feel like, was it Angels at the very, or no, not Angels, Wings.
Yeah, Wings at the very end.
Wings at the very end, but yo, you're exactly right. That first half, it's like boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, and then it does. That could be. That could be.
It goes to sleep.
Yeah, I don't know. I was still in the horny mindset when it came to the title Mirrorland. It was like, oh, this is just this is referring to a fuck room.
Oh, this is a sex room.
This is a sex room. Yeah.
Ladies, Cody needs some help. He was in a very difficult space listening to this album. You can tell he needs help. All 41 of my subscribers right now, if you just want to band together, help a brother out. He's so nice.
Well, honestly, that was another, because as I was listening to this, I was kind of like doing some introspection. It's like, why haven't I been listening to more rap, hip hop?
Oh, it's because I'm unhappy.
It's because I'm unhappy and no longer have sexual urges.
Is it because I'm depressed? Like,
Yeah.
I know usually that, like, I have like a happy playlist where, like, and I haven't touched it in a while, like, but it is mostly like fun R&B, like acts like Amine, Earth Gang, like in like house music and like Vegas songs, and like I was like, I have been deep in the other direction, and I'm like, God, am I living a joyless existence?
Yeah.
Like,
I remember when I first moved to Chicago, we were listening to a lot of Chance the Rapper and a lot of Anderson .Paak.
as one does, yeah.
And that was a joyous time for me.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of, I was doing this with my arms a
Oh
lot.
yeah.
And I haven't moved my arms that way until EARTHGANG.
Yep.
You know, I haven't.
Now we're back.
I've been like, I think the album, the artist I brought up to you when you said, do you have, you could send me 3 albums or, 3 artists. And I asked you, has anyone done Jim Croce?
No.
And then I let you pick an album, and we did EARTHGANG, arguably one of the blackest albums for 2 of the whitest guys to commentate on.
Here
I
we
couldn't
are.
have been happier.
I remember when I moved to Chicago, it was like, and we don't speak his name anymore, but Drake had just dropped "Nothing Is the Same" or "Nothing Was the Same," and like it's like I can't even remember the name of the song. It's like got everything, I got everything. It's like him, Big Sean, 2 Chainz.
Yep.
Like that song. Oh man.
Yeah.
That was my Chicago walkabout song.
Yeah.
But anyway, now Drake's dead, which is crazy.
Which is so
That's
so
crazy.
Rest in peace, Drake.
Cool. So actually, the last roast of mine is triggering Hitter Full of Shit, our final record scratch game.
Okay.
So we'll get this record scratch out the way, and then we'll hit on a turntable. So for those that are unaware, Hitter Full of Shit is our mainstay game where I find takes on the internet or come up with them, and we hash out whether they're good takes or I'm full of shit. Sometimes I'm way too generous with artists about like what I think their intentions are, and people are like, "Nope, the curtains are just blue." So I think this one's a bonus that I think, but I like it more than one of my other ones. Southern rap, such as Outkast and EARTHGANG, has such a welcoming vibe to it. Do you think that's because of the ethos of Southern hospitality?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I think it probably does. I think they probably go hand in hand.
Because like EARTHGANG, like I was watching a radio interview with them, and they were like, "Why did you call yourselves EARTHGANG?" It's like, because we're for everybody. Everybody come on in. We're the gang for Earth.
Yes.
Like it's like, and like they had such a gates open, come on in mentality where I'm like, this has to be like a Southern thing, right? Because like I don't gatekeep, but I definitely don't open it either. I'm like a gate in the middle kind of guy.
Yeah. I think it probably, I think there's something to that. I don't think that's a bad take.
All right, hit.
I like that take. That's a hit.
All right, that one's mine, so that's important. Second one, Anthony Fantano, the internet's busiest music nerd, gave this album a 6 out of 10 and said the back half of this album were total snoozers. Hit take or full of shit?
I don't disagree entirely. I think here's what I would say. I think that it might just be poor track placement in terms of just like mixing in some of the, and I wouldn't call them snoozers. Like I said, I think one of my favorite songs on the album is Wings at the end. But there definitely is a little bit of a dive.
Oh, there's a dip.
But it's not. It's all like they do so like. But then you also have Tequila on that side where with T-Pain on it, and that song is great.
Yeah, the horns on that song.
It's
rule.
so good. Like the way it has like that like Western video game intro.
Yeah.
And it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get it, but I don't know. I disagree. I don't know. I don't like takes on music in general because I think it's I just don't. Yeah. I'm not into it. I think like it just I don't like to what do they call it? Yucking somebody's yum.
Yeah, sure.
I don't like it. I don't like it because I feel like there were elements in a lot of those songs where, like I said, it might have started as a snooze, or it might have like there were songs in that album where it's like, man, this is the one that's not for me. And then I get halfway through, it's like, oh, this is my favorite musical part of this whole album.
Yeah, and I think the only defense I have to like make it to kick it over the line of like a full of shit take is the idea that maybe it was intentional. Like because like the track listing, you're like maybe that's a problem. It's like maybe it isn't though, because like it is called Mirrorland, right? It's like one's the opposite of the other. Like it could have been an intentional thing. Like front half is bangers, back half is like intentionally a little slow.
Yeah.
So like that's like the only thing I was like, all right, Fantano, maybe you didn't think hard enough.
Maybe you didn't think about the metaphor of the mirror.
Yeah, idiot. Dude. Did you even try Anthony Fantano 5 years ago? Most successful music YouTuber? I don't know. Why don't you let me know in the comments, nerd? So I say full of shit, but you're welcome to abstain if you would like.
No, I think it's shit. I think you're onto something with this whole Mirrorland thing. With this whole Mirrorland metaphor of like the first half of the album being a mirror to the second half, because they really are two different sets. But then you have Wings, where it kind of brings you back up and lets you look at the mirror from a bird's eye view.
Whoa, now we're there. Or
Suck
Wings
on that,
bring
Anthony.
you back up into the cycle. You just start the ride again.
Yeah.
You know, one of those things.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. All right, last one.
Okay.
EARTHGANG's music is cartoonish, but somehow not wild enough to be compared to other experimental hip-hop acts. That was another Fantano take, actually. He's like, he mentioned they were cartoonish, and then he's like, but they're not even as experimental as other experimental acts, so, namely like JPEG Mafia, people like that who are really, throwing things out in the experimental space.
Yeah, So he said it was, I mean, I guess it's like, what do you want him to be then?
Yeah.
And I think like what you said at the beginning, and I think like the number one pedestal thing is like they are uniquely them.
Yep.
I haven't heard anybody. Now, granted, I haven't listened to nearly as much of this genre as I should to have an educated take.
Sure.
But in terms of just like having a unique sound that, I don't know, that feels like, I think if you heard, I will say this, like, I think if you could hear an EARTHGANG song and be like, oh, that's EARTHGANG.
Yeah, you could.
And I don't know. How experimental you want to go. I've never personally, that's just not my, I like an element of experimentation, which I think they I think they balance it well.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a healthy balance of experimentation, some oddball shit, but also just like still a quality song from beginning to end on every track.
Right.
There's not a song on there I'm just like, this is just noise.
This is a total miss. Yeah.
I don't feel that way.
I don't feel that way either. I'm calling it full of shit on the basis of snobbery.
Yeah.
Like it is one of like, and like he's not exactly not known for having snobby takes, but like if you want experimental stuff to be adapted to like the mainstream, it needs to be approachable.
Yeah.
And I think that's like they found that line really well, where like it is wacky, but it's like a come on in wacky, not like a fuck you wacky.
Yeah.
Like
it's a palatable whack.
Right. There's no middle finger to the listener. of like, this is meant to be trash. And then there's like the hordes of people that are like, yeah, and if you don't get it, fuck you. Like, it's like, whoa, like there's none of that here.
Yeah.
It's gates open, come on in.
It's gates open, come on in. We're not taking ourselves too seriously. This is fun.
Yeah.
Have fun with us.
We're having a great time.
We're gonna dance. We're gonna laugh. We're gonna fuck.
Yeah, and like if it's the gateway to like more experimental stuff, then hell yeah, they're like those bands need to exist.
Yeah.
And like I was having a conversation about a different band in another episode that'll air at some point, where like it's like those bands need to exist. Like the gateway folk that aren't, you know, pushing boundaries necessarily as much as others, but like they get you to that place of like looking for those acts.
Yes.
Like, and I think EARTHGANG does a good job. So once again, Fantano, you are full of shit. You're getting called out. Someone tag him in the comments. I don't know.
Tag him in the comments. I'll tag him in the comments.
I'll tag you today. All right. Which this brings us. All right. So that's the end of Hitter Full of Shit. Yay. We did it. That brings us to our final segment of the show, On a Turntable.
Okay.
And I sent you these questions ahead of time so you could kick them around for a while.
Yep.
And I think our last conversation is actually just a great segue into the first question, which is EARTHGANG is just themselves. It is apparent to me and likely anyone who listens that that what you're hearing is just their mode of living. They would do this for free, but have been blessed with the opportunity to make it sustainable. Have you found that yourself yet, or do you think that you're on the way to finding that pocket to exist in? And what does that life look like for you, Cody Walker?
Yeah, I think, I think that's been the goal for a long time. I think first the goal was like, hey, well, how can I just do what I love and only do that forever?
Yeah.
But then it's like, hey, what do I even like?
Yeah, yeah.
And then you find that, and then by the time, at least for me, when I found the things that I really like to do and the things I was passionate about, like you've got bills to pay, you've got insulin to buy for your diabetes, and you're like, okay, now what can I do that I hate the least?
Yeah.
And then it became a thing where it's like, okay, every job I'm just gonna try to hate it a little bit less than the last one.
Yeah.
But throughout that time, I mean, I've always tried to keep the dream alive, whatever that is. And I don't really have anything specific where it's like I'm trying to do this or that. Mm-hmm. But I think if there's anything, it's like I want to spend as much time creating things, creating a fun space, which I think is what we're doing with our music and comedy show that we do on Wednesdays down at the Tap Room with the Keep It Open gang. Getting to when I moved to Chicago, the whole idea was to make sketch videos and see where that went. Mm-hmm. And I think we did that to the extent that we could do it there. It just got to the point where it's like everybody's working so much that it became hard to do. I think what's been great about being here in Cincinnati is that there's so many people that are creating. It's a really fun community. Everybody tries to include everybody else on their projects, whether it's the Brap guys with their sketches, whether it's local showcases. There's a lot to get involved in creatively.
Yeah.
And you don't have to drive a long way to do it. It doesn't cost you a lot of money. You can work a full-time job and still do these things you enjoy with really great people.
Yeah, I found that too. I lived in LA for a pretty long time.
Okay.
And got absolutely lost in the sauce there. Absolutely, like just making ends meet became the entire thing.
Yes.
And you don't get to do the things you like.
Yes.
And like it just became a grind. Like I'm too tired from my grind to like do any of the things that I enjoy, and that cycle just kind of continues.
Yeah.
And like I didn't find it till I moved back here to Cincinnati, where it was like completely sustainable to do the stuff that you like.
100%.
And like nobody here is out to like scalp you for shit. Like they're not here to like make you pay them to get on your show, that kind of thing. Like it's all very like level-headed, very cool.
Yeah.
We have like an interesting sort of like policing system in the scene of like this guy kind of sucks, and we are just like 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 there's a very strong ethos to like the Cincinnati comedy scene where like if you go against the ethos, you're kind of like you're just kind of shit out of luck, dude.
Yeah.
And it's like a very upright ethos, like very moral.
Yes.
And isn't that the thing though? Is like it's just trying to find your find the pocket where like you're just existing and you get to exist. I think that's like what I'm most jealous of like EARTHGANG of, and like I'm getting, you know, ever so close to like making the things I enjoy doing pay the bills.
Yes.
And like it's such a weird space to be like, oh shit, this might happen.
Yeah.
And like I just like am now trying to visualize what that life looks like, where I'm like, I like this, you know, like you know, like there's a part of me that's like when I'm doing like YouTube research on like the act that I'm like, gonna review or whatever, or like put on the Full Spin Club, where I'm like, this could be my job. Like it's like, you mean me watching YouTube videos about shit I like is like, yay.
Yeah.
I think having EARTHGANG as an example of like just capitalizing on being yourself rocks.
And trusting that.
Yeah.
And trusting that, hey, like, we might, this could be, like, we have some odd lyrics and we have an odd style that's different from what other people are doing. But number one, I'm having a great time doing it.
Yeah.
And I enjoy the music that we're making. And let's see if other people do. And other people did. And it's like, oh, man, that's really great. But also, like, to your question, it's like, would you do it regardless? Like, have you found the thing where it's like, I'm doing it, you know, whether or not I'm making money? I think realistically, I'm finding that ideally, I wish that wasn't the case, but like there are real world consequences to having nothing and being
for sure
flat broke.
Yeah.
And so it's finding a little bit of that balance. It's like because you don't want to do it for the wrong reasons. And when you do, and when you are strictly doing it for the money, I think it's obvious. It comes off as disingenuous. But I feel like I'm getting closer. I feel like I quit my job that was paying me very well, and I had a fairly comfortable life financially, and I doing a painting business with my brother and my sister and my dad. And it's the pay isn't what it was working in banking, but I look forward to going to work every day.
Yeah.
I laugh all day. We can listen to EARTHGANG while we're painting, and we can and then I'm doing stand up at night where I can drive down the road and do that with my friends, and then some fun opportunities have come through that, and it's been I feel like things like. It's a cliche thing that people say, but I think when you start to actually make the moves to do things that you really enjoy and you're passionate about, I think sometimes it does fall into place.
Sometimes it just breaks.
Yeah.
And like, I think there comes like with the whole, like, I gotta find my train of thought again. With the whole, like, there needs to be like an openness to letting it happen. You know, like, or like there needs to be, it's self-acceptance. That was what I was thinking about. Like, I think once you find the thing that you really enjoy, nothing really matters. Like, you just enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
And like, I think that like with EARTHGANG, that's what comes through. They trusted themselves and they are okay with themselves enough to do whatever they like.
Yeah.
They like that sort of like self-acceptance is huge. And like to your point, I was like, I do this shit for free. You know, like I've been running this for like coming up on 9 months now. Like, you know, like where this might be my 19th or 20th episode, and like these aren't easy to make. You know, I do enjoy this shit, and like I get excited to do it. I get like those nerves feelings, and like oh, this is so fun. Like,
that comes through, babe. Yeah, that's awesome.
So I think that's that rocks. This is I just think EARTHGANG sets like a really wild tone of like trust, but also like trust yourself. Yeah. Like if you like it and like you want to share it, then do it. Don't worry about the rest. Like make ends meet if you gotta, but like make the moves to make ends meet in a less incriminating way. Yeah. Like, cause like I'm with you, man. I did those jobs that just completely suck.
Yeah. And
like sell your soul for some money, and you're like, you know what? I'll actually take money out of it if I get a little bit of my soul back. Like, please, God.
Right. Yeah. So you can only fake it for so long, and then eventually you do get found. I think for me it was like, oh, I'm either gonna quit or I'm gonna be fired very soon.
Yeah.
And the last one was more of a mutual breakup. And,
the universe.
We both knew it wasn't working out.
The universe provides sometimes. Yeah. The universe provides you an out.
Yeah.
But hell yeah, man. That brings us to our second question of On a Turntable. This duo has always struck me as where the Venn diagram of unfiltered expression and rap meet. They push boundaries and trust instincts unlike a lot of acts out there. This is what I call art instead of entertainment. Who are some comics in this sort of like, or this, who are some comics this sort of expressive chaos remind you of? Is there even a parallel to comedy? And these could be famous or local.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a parallel to comedy. I think the first one that, like, one of my favorite comics right now is Eddie Pepitone.
Okay.
I feel like he ties into that a bit in terms of just like the chaos and really, I mean, some of those, like him just coming out and screaming, I'm as an older man screaming, I'm on Molly, is pretty chaotic and hilarious to me.
Yeah.
I think, like Tim Robinson, I Think You Should Leave is one of my favorite shows.
Yeah.
And I think that's a perfect example. I think we're seeing like one of my favorite forms of comedy right now, and I don't know if it's a sign of the times or whatever it is, but it's absurdism. I think the rap guys do a great job with it. Andrew Pinnell, I think those guys, I think that style of comedy is so funny to me.
Yeah.
And that, I feel like that stuff you really like, in order to do, like they did a TLC style documentary about a guy with a boner that wouldn't go away.
Oh my God.
And I think you really have to trust yourself.
Yeah, you gotta trust
to do
yourself.
that.
I think honestly, Andrew's stand-up in general, like, is very trusting. Like,
Yes.
trust himself and his ideas and going for it. And like he comes out on top more than he doesn't. Like he has more successes than bombs.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a very important like trust yourself moment.
Yeah.
So
because
props
it will,
to
because
Andrew.
sometimes it will
Yeah.
bomb.
Oh, it'll bomb.
And I've seen
Like,
it bomb. Yeah.
even myself, who's like relatively conservative in like the style of comedy I do, like as far as like not going too crazy, like I have this voice, gang. Like I don't inflect a ton. So like as far as my jokes go, it's usually just wordplay or situational.
Yeah.
And so, but like, yeah, he trusts himself to go like get really wacky with it and come up with some really like strange premises that rule.
Yes.
But
Grant
yeah.
Stiles is another example of that.
Yeah, I would throw Giles Chickering in the
Giles-
mix.
yeah,
Giles
absolutely.
is insane, but I love his comedy so much, especially because I can't tell if he's really losing his mind up there,
Yes.
or if it's part of it.
Right.
And I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's unintentional, but when he has like a nervous breakdown, it's like some of the funniest shit. Like,
I think the reason I love that is because I have yet to find that within myself.
Sure.
To just I mean, I hear like even just I'll change a set mid show just by just kind of like seeing where the crowd is at. If they're a little older, I'll change some wording around.
Yeah.
And it usually doesn't help, And I think that comes with, like, I think people can tell when you trust your material and when you're trying to be more palatable to everybody.
yeah. Well, there's so much to be said about like the self-actualization side of comedy. Like there is like you want to go up there and be yourself, but in order to do that, you have to become yourself.
Yeah.
And so there's a certain amount of like self-actualization that comes along with writing jokes. And there's stand-ups out there that are completely 100% fabricated. Like I was never in that arena. I would rather tell true things, or at least truth parallel things.
Yeah.
Because then I can buy into it, and that's the only way I can sell it to you, the audience.
Right.
And so like I think there are people that are in different places in that self-actualization journey. And as soon as but we're watching people find it in real time.
Yes. And I don't know that always means, everybody just being their most authentic self on stage and that being the best way to do comedy. Some of my favorite comics are nothing like themselves.
Oh,
on
right.
stage.
Yeah.
But it's still that, I think what you're saying is like it's authentically them. And
Yeah, but
even if that is a different version of themselves, it's still authentic.
Yeah, but that persona is still like an authentic portion that they've
still
like
lives in them. Yeah.
Yeah, that they've like compartmentalized for this.
Yeah.
It's like it's their way of expressing those things so that it makes sense or is funny.
Yeah.
Like, but it's all there, and you can tell it is like a portion of them, or else they wouldn't be able to sell it.
Right. Yeah.
Because like audiences can tell when I'm being inauthentic, or like when I'm having an off night, and I will say the same joke I've said last week or something like that with a different inflection, or like I'm not feeling it that night. They can tell.
Yes.
Like, and it is crazy.
That's in that frame, in that framing of it, that's something absolutely. I've felt in like really battle, because then sometimes it feels like when you try harder to like,
it's like quicksand.
it's even worse. Like it becomes worse. Yeah. It's like, you're trying to get out, and you're so like, then I'll go up, I'll be like over the top.
Yeah.
And and like to try to overcompensate for just the lack of energy or the lack of feeling I have that night, or just the energy for that show. And they can smell that. People can smell that.
Like once or twice I've broken late in like I'm late on the list at an open mic or something like that, and I'm like trying to suss out the room, and like I'll be like, I'll just call it out. I'm like, all right, you didn't like that one, and like let's go to the other end of like spectrum of the kinds of jokes I have. Like, you don't like that one either. All right, I'm running out here, gang. Like, and then eventually I broke, and I'm like, what do you guys like?
Yeah.
like I'll do like a domestic violence joke, and I was like, that's what hits. What's happening?
It's a weird thing. It's always then it's the question is like, oh, was it the joke that they liked, or was it just the fact that I delivered it in a way that was a little more, authentic than where everything else felt like I was reading off a script. Yeah. And it's a fun game to play. It's a terrifying game to play.
Oh, it's like
because there's very real consequences. Bombing is horrible, and it makes me feel bad. And I think it's not as bad as it was. I mean, I've still only been doing stand-up for a little while.
I've built some calluses, but it's never fun.
Yeah. I do feel like after I do really bad, the next show is always a much better show.
I've had that for sure.
I really like doing a show right after that. Because for whatever reason, I don't know if it's just that like I'm coming in kind of with a chip on my shoulder. Yeah. But it feels like I do a lot better after I do really bad.
Yeah, I have that. I usually say that it is a bad omen to have a good show the day before a big show.
Yeah.
If you have like a good set at a mic, then the day before you're like a big gig, guarantee it's going to be tough. Yeah. But like the inverse is also true, where like if I have a terrible set at a mic in prep for a big show, my big show will be great. Yeah. It'll slap. Yeah. But yeah, man. But I think bringing it back to like EARTHGANG though, I think they are way more self-actualized and like thus are more willing to share that like that sort of like kooky artistic side. Yes. And like are willing to just like go out there and bomb. Yeah. And then like my people will find us. Yeah. That kind of thing. Yeah. Like it doesn't have to be for everyone. Yeah.
And that takes honestly, it just takes guts to do.
Yeah. And it just seems so much like expression as opposed to like just entertainment. Like there are stand-ups out there that are like, this is really entertaining, but then there's somewhere I'm like, oh, this is like expression. This is like a thing. Like,
what I like about the album too is like there's elements of it was like, okay, this is for everybody. It's like that EARTHGANG thing where you're talking about, it's like, hey, this is for everybody, come on in. And then there's lines where it feels just like an inside joke. Yeah. Where it's like, hey, this is just for us.
Oh yeah, like
this
inside baseball.
You and I are gonna quote later. It's like, I can't believe we put that on the album. Yeah. Like nobody's gonna know what that means.
That's like one of my favorite bands is Pup, and like I don't know if you saw like Lee Kimbrell. Lee Kimbrell did Pup, and like their EP during COVID was called "This Place Sucks Ass," and like that was like their inside joke was that like it got a bunch of awards, and now like someone somewhere had to engrave a plaque. This place sucks ass.
I love that.
Yeah, that shit rules.
I'm a big fan of that sort of thing.
But all right, that brings us to our final question here. EARTHGANG is part of Dreamville, which has a huge collaborative vibe to it. I don't know if you heard of Revenge of the Dreamers, like the series they do where like the entire label gets together and makes an album. No, there's like a series of those, like 1, 2, and 3. Revenge of the Dreamers 3 rips. Okay. And like they're also part of a collective with other Dreamville artists and friends called Spillage Village.
Yep, I did do some do a dive into Spillage Village.
As one of the members of Cincinnati's Keep It Open, do you feel like you've built a similar collaborative collective like this? Are there many voices involved, or are you like in charge? And like, is the end product becoming greater than the sum of its parts? Do you feel like you've...
That's a really thoughtful question, man. Thanks for asking.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, this is number one, real quick. This is so cool.
Oh,
like you do a great job with this, and I love it. And that was the Keep It Open thing. It was really like it was just gonna be an open mic for music. Okay. And then comics started showing up, but it started with me and my two friends that I went to high school with, Dylan Briscoe and Cam Meese, and the idea was to just have like a fun open mic for music. and we all played music, and then I would host, do some like jokes in between. We try to come up with like some different antics to do at the show.
Sure.
That would be fun, and then it's just kind of snowballed, and within all these other voices have come in. Like we've got Tucker Shelton and Kendall Shelton with the Cadillac Preachers, Marco Otero who does a lot of our sound on a lot of nights. And then all these people in Cincinnati that have come, and then the comics started showing up to the mic, and it turned into this whole other thing. And it's really become I would love for it to be that. I would love for it to be this like big collaborative thing.
Yeah.
Where it's starting to turn into that. Like we're starting to do showcases where we bring out people that come to the mic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because you guys have expanded into like producing shows.
We've only done a few. I think we've done 2 now. We're about to do 2 more, and we're doing our first music show at Sonder Brewing over in Mason.
All right.
So really excited about that. Still figuring it out. Like I think we've really, like, because of everybody that we have working on that, we've really kind of started to understand like how to build a really fun show, and we've really got that part down. What we don't know a lot about is the business side.
Oh, sure.
And just like, because I think one of the things we want to do is make, everybody, like, have people get paid to come up and show their art off.
Yeah.
So it's figuring out those things. So that's kind of the missing piece of the puzzle. I would
Sure.
Unfortunately, like, the people in that with that style of brain, I don't always like. I don't know. They're not always the people that I spend a lot of time with.
Right, the business folk.
Yeah, the business folk, if you will. But yeah, to answer your question, that's the goal, is to make it this really fun, collaborative environment where we make really fun, weird comedy shows that are different. I want to make them weirder.
Okay.
I think, in my mind, ideally, I love the old like 50s, 60s like variety show.
Oh, okay, sure.
I would love to build a show like that, where you have a dance group come out and do a dance. You have a John Lewis come out and do some magic and some prop comedy.
Yeah.
You have stand up. You have a couple different types of bands.
Yeah.
You have a band that's very raucous and loud, and then that's followed by a guy on the fiddle. And which we've had nights at the tap room.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite. That's my favorite shit. And that kind of goes with what you said about in terms of just like, have you found like a space where you're just like doing what you love because you love to do it? This is the most I've never been more in that space than I have been now, moving back to Cincinnati, having the time to do it, having the mental space to do it, because I'm not doing jobs that are destroying me.
Just the grind.
I'm not riddled with anxiety like I was. Still dealing with a lot of that, and still dealing with the depression stuff, but it's gotten to a point where it's like I have all these things now that I look forward to every night of the week. Yeah. And I'm around, like, the people in this community have just been so great. Yeah. It's been so much fun, and everybody seems to be hungry. Everybody seems to be like creating something cool. Like, you're doing this podcast, which is so cool, and you're doing a great job with it. And people aren't like, it's also a community where like nobody's like really slacking off. Everybody's putting on, like, at least trying to put on a really quality show. Yeah. And something different. And yeah, man, it's been a great time to be in Cincinnati. I'm so thankful to get to be a part of this community and this scene right now. I feel like the music in Cincinnati has been incredible. I've been blown away by that. I mean, I'm sure, like, I don't know how it was for you coming back from Los Angeles after being there and being in Chicago. Like, if you had kind of a mindset moving back to Cincinnati where it was like, I mean, because one of the great things about being in a big city like that is the art scene.
Yo, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, that is something I struggled with, because like I didn't get back into comedy until about a year after I moved back, because like moving back was such a huge weird whiplash of like feelings and like and just like utter like, what the fuck are we doing? Yeah. And so it took me like a year, and then like I was so nervous because there's so few people per capita that are interested in the stuff that I'm interested in than there was in those big cities. You know, like there's like 1,000 out of 100,000 people in, you know, Chicago or LA are into the shit I'm in. Yeah. Here, there's 60 comics tops. You know, and that's if everybody comes out for the hub closing. Yeah. You know, there were 60 of us. Yeah. And per capita, out of 3 million people in the, you know, the metropolitan Cincinnati area, is tough, and that was really daunting. And like there aren't the same types of industry here. Like I think like Cincinnati's main industry right now is like the medical industry or P&G or Kroger, all really like mundane things. And like socially it's just kind of strange. People are into the same shit. It's like, I don't know, it's weird. Like there's less quirk here, and so like once you find it, it's cool, but I definitely had to like assimilate, like, because like your chances are just like a little less. Like there's less opportunity to meet the right people.
You got to look for it a little
and
more.
You got to look for it a little harder. Like you can't just toss a rock and hit someone in a Starbucks writing a screenplay, you know, like, and so that I did struggle with that a bit moving back. But that being said, the community that is here is rock solid. Yeah. It's tight. Like, again, you're right. People are hungry. People want to do things. This is an odd show compared to other comedy podcasts, right? But people are willing to step up to the plate. They're willing to do their research. You were one of them. You know, like you're willing to like listen to the album over and over again. You know, get your thoughts together. And I think that's really great. And it goes to show the sort of like tenacity of the comedy scene here in general. So yeah, like I think like in general, like find your scene, gang. Like if there were any advice I would give to anyone is like find your community, dude. And I think that's like what you're starting with Keep It Open is like a community.
Yeah. Do you feel like I agree with everything you said. Do you feel like when you moved back that like when you found the people that were in the same thing, for me it was like there was I've been surprised by how many people I have found that are wanting to do this, that are into the same stuff that I am, and doing the kind of similar things. And I will say, I think because it's not a big city, I feel like folks, I think there's not less of a drive, which is what I thought there'd be, because I feel like when you're in Chicago, it's like everybody's like trying to. It's
big grind. And
it's a real grind mentality for a lot of not the group of guys that wasn't an issue, but like there's also a level like when you do meet those people that are really on that grind, there's a level of pretentiousness. Yeah,
like one-upsmanship.
Big time.
Like, and
it's like, what are you working on? You doing sketch videos in your basement and you're
sick.
Yeah, and it's like, oh well, you're not at Second City, you're not at IO. What do you do? Like, and here it's just like, hey, do you want to do a video this weekend? And there's 12 people that are like, yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, for sure.
It's nothing. Yeah, I'm there.
I'm board.
I'll bring cheese conies. Yeah, it's a really cool thing to get to be a part of.
Yeah.
And it's been so much fun, and dude, I'm just excited about all of it. I think the Keep It Open thing is going to turn into a really fun thing. I don't know where it's going. Right now, I think we're losing money in every aspect of it.
Who isn't?
The money that you did an open mic. I mean, it's not a lot for what you put in. Ours is about a 5-hour long show right now.
Yeah, that's
between
nuts.
Music and comedy, and that's too long.
Yep.
On a Wednesday, getting home at 2:00 in the morning, but it's also the most fun I've ever had doing anything.
Yeah, it is.
There's nights where it's draining. Yeah. I mean, you and I'm trying to make it. I think part of the reason it's been a good mic is like we've really put a focus on, okay, we have to structure this in a way where it's fun for us too, or we're gonna get burnt out, we're gonna hate it, and then everybody else is gonna hate it.
Yeah, I found that while I was running my open mic, I often lost the forest for the trees, in the sense that I would get anxious about people not showing up, or I'd get anxious about like being a bad host. I'd get anxious like I don't feel like a good hang nine times out of 10. Or like I was like too many people trying to talk to me. I was like, I can't do it. Like I was like, please stop.
You were a great host. Your mic was the first one I ever did stand up at.
Oh hell yeah. The B list, baby.
And I bombed so hard. Dude, it was really bad. It was really, really bad, and it wasn't because of the room. Everybody there did great that night. It was my first time, and but you were so nice afterwards. We talked a little bit, and I could tell like it was. I think there were a lot of comics on the lineup that night, and there were a few drunk people at the bar.
Oh yeah, that'll happen.
Which was fun. But like for me, first time being there, it's like, oh, this is exciting. This is what I've heard about. Yeah. I'm in the trenches.
This is it. Yeah, man, some of those shows got to be the real trenches. But yeah,
man, I appreciate you for that.
For sure. But if there's anything you want to plug before we sign off here, you want to plug any of the Keep It Open business?
Sure, if you're in the Cincinnati area and you play music, or you want to try stand-up comedy, or you do stand-up comedy, we do a show every Wednesday night from 7 to 12 typically, midnight. You can do signups online, or you can sign up in person. You can follow us at Keep It Open Cincy on all platforms. And then, we've got a show coming up July 16th at Martino's across from Bogart's down in Cincinnati on Short Vine. And then I think we're going to have another show at Valley Vineyards coming up on August 21st, I believe.
Heck yeah, dude.
And I'll have ticket links up for that. And then we have a show coming up at Sonder Brewing in Mason. That's going to be a music show. We might throw some comedy in there as well. We haven't figured all that out yet, but some fun things coming down the pipe.
Yeah, man. Support local comedy, Cincinnati. Come on. Speaking of supporting local comedy, my next gig is on July 13th at Commonwealth Sanctuary for their 1-year anniversary show. They've been open for a year now. Commonwealth Sanctuary is Northern Kentucky's only comedy club.
Great spot.
And it is one of the most fun places to do stand-up in the city. So if you are feeling like you want to come out on a Saturday night to help celebrate the 1-year anniversary of that amazing place, you should come out and do it. I'm on the show. Kyron Harrell is closing it out. It'll be a good time. He's a great comic. So with that, I think we're going to wrap up this episode.
Awesome, man. This is a lot of fun. Thanks
for
having me on.
Yeah, man.
Really
Thanks for
enjoyed
coming on. Hell yeah. And please like, comment, subscribe, do all the things, and we will catch you in the next one. Peace.